Welcome back to Talkin Shift. Today we have a longtime friend of mine on, Larry Larson. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us.
Yep, absolutely.
This is going to be fun.
Yeah, kind of cool to do it in an actual room and where I can sit across and see you. So that'd be pretty cool. It ought to be fun.
I didn't make it clear that we were doing this in person. He thought he was calling in. So 2 days ago, he's like, "Oh, shoot, I got to be here." I'm like, "Yeah, if you could do that, that'd be awesome." So I appreciate you being here in person.
Yep.
You're on your way to Eddyville for this weekend?
Yeah, we've got an appearance in Eddyville, Night of Fire there. It'll be pretty cool. This will be the third time we've been up for that event. So it's just pretty laid back and
cool.
I think I got to run an alcohol funny car tomorrow night.
Are they doing fuel altereds there? Do you know?
Yeah, I think they've got 2 jet cars, 2 fuel altereds. They've got a small tire match race with 4 cars. Man, they've got just about everything.
Sweet. I've only been there for the Fuel Alter Nationals. A few of my friends invited me a long time ago, and those things are nuts.
Yeah. The last time we were there, they put a top fuel bike off in the corn.
Yeah. The cornfield's entertaining when you run out. The shutdown's a circle track, and if you don't have brakes, you just launch off the end of the circle track into this cornfield.
Yeah, except this was a top fuel bike.
Oh, bike. Oh, my God. Those things are awesome.
Yeah.
They're awesome. A little bit of background. If you guys don't know Larry Larson, you must not be a drag racing fan. Larry Larson and I go back almost 20 years to the date, September. Actually, was the first drag week in September?
Yep, second week of September.
Okay, so we're at 19 years and like 10 months or so, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
I brought something with me. This is the first photograph I ever took of your car that I still have. Right there. Pretty cool. So
wow.
When
that was at Michigan, it looks like.
That might be. Or Kansas City, back in the back. Did we go to Michigan the first year?
We finished in Michigan.
Oh, yeah. I think that was Case. I don't know. It might be Michigan. The trees look like it, yeah. But there's a few, like you guys have seen Larry from No Prep Racing, Drag Week, the king of no trailer drag and drives back in the day. But the way I learned of Larry Larson originally was street racing in 2003 in Kansas City. We went down with Parrish with his blue pickup truck, raced Black Supra down there. He still races that car on the streets today. I'm trying to remember the other cars we raced. A lot of people we still hang out with. Ryan Mitchell was there, and it was just this fun, casual street racing back then. And there was these people talking about this pink car that would just randomly show up street races and just hang out. I'm like, that sounds weird. Who would be driving around a pink car? And then here you go, pulling in the gates of KCIR, no trailer, just ready to rock and roll for the week. And this was a whole new event that I was like, Parrish invited me, Jim Neuenfeld, with that blue pickup that was a big video from some of the first viral videos on 1320 Video. He's like, "Hey, there's this event that's in Hot Rod Magazine." Like, literally found out about it in the magazine.
So did I. Somebody brought it to my attention, like literally like a month, maybe 6 weeks before the event. And hey, have you seen this? And I'm like, no. And same thing.
The perfect event for your race car lifestyle, because you're just like me. Why build a car? Well, not anymore, but why build a car you can't cruise and drag on the street, right?
Well, yeah, and it fit really good into what I'd been doing, and a lot of people in the Midwest, be it here, because there was a big culture up here too.
Yep.
But Kansas City, Topeka, that was a big thing. I mean, we all drove our cars. I mean, they were 8, 9 second street cars, but we actually drove them. And you go to some of the cities back east, Chicago, whatever, they might have had a street car, but they didn't drive it much. So we had an advantage on them for the first few years because we already knew how to drive them.
Today's video is sponsored by Brunt Workwear, and let me tell you, these boots saved my life last weekend. We went to King of the Off-Road. It was supposed to be sunny and dry all weekend, and it rained for at least 6 hours every single day. I brought my Brunt boots with me. I brought my tennis shoes. I ended up wearing these all weekend through the sloppy, muddy mess. And these things are water resistant. As long as you tie them tight at the top, your feet aren't going to get wet. And that was a saving grace for me this weekend. It really helped out. Super comfortable. I was really impressed. They broke in pretty quick because once you get boots, it takes a little bit of time to wear them in. But I absolutely love these. They look great, even though I'm in shorts, and they're super comfortable. And the water resistant, mud resistant was the key because I was camping on top of my 4Runner and I got to go to bed with dry feet every night. And that is amazing. Otherwise, I would have been wearing wet shoes and socks all weekend starting off on day one. So thank you to Brunt Workwear. Check them out at bruntworkwear.com and use code 1320video for $10 off your first order. And that it wasn't really a sport necessarily. It was just, so I just do it for
passion, because
it's what I like. I'm not going to build a car myself personally, a trailer everywhere. And so it's cool. And here you are showing up. I literally was there when you pulled in the gates the first day, and I'm like, here's that crazy guy I've been hearing about. I didn't know he was coming. We didn't know anything. There was not really any internet. There wasn't any information online. It was just this little ad in Hot Rod Magazine about Drag Week. And Parrish is like, hey, you want to come hang out for a week at 5 different dragsters? I'm like, I don't know if I'm really that into being at the track. Sure. Had no idea how cool it was going to be. And I was addicted.
Well, I don't think anybody did.
No.
Freiberger included, I mean, he harebrained that thing together, and I still remember him standing on the tailgate of that pickup, telling everybody, hey, if Warren Johnson wants to bring his pro stock car and he can make it 1,500 miles and bring it on.
Yes. And some people have brought some pretty wild stuff over the years for sure.
Yep.
And actually, I have some older ones from KCIR, but this has Freiberger in it, so I chose that one. He's there with the little light box.
Yep.
And man, we were talking earlier before we started this about how crazy it is, the different people that were at that event and where they're at today. Freiberger, Chad Reynolds, a bunch of other people.
Brian Loans.
Brian was at that one.
I gave Brian a ride in Michigan. He had a video camera in his hand. We went out and cruised because he was working for, I think that event he was working for Bobby Bennett and Competition Bush.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And if you guys don't know, Brian Loans is one of the main NHRA announcers for TV for NHRA.
Yeah, on Fox, yeah.
It's crazy because he would announce, he was just a photographer here, eventually would announce here, and then he was doing live feeds with Freiberger.
Well, him and Chad started
bangshift.com.
Yeah.
Chad Reynolds, who was here, had his wagon on air that rolled in, and then Brian and him paired up on that. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the start of Parrish actually going to the drag strip he was going to the drag strip anyway, but just so many different things that came out of that.
Well, I mean, look at your deal. What your thing has turned into. I mean,
Ice Cream Cruise.
Yeah. Well, just 1320 video.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I mean,
yes,
everything that started off with you wandering around with a little bitty ass video camera in your hand. I still remember that, riding with Parrish and videoing out the side window, and catching Cunningham that night.
Oh my
God, it was, and I know I brought it up to you before, but that original CD that you did, or DVD that you did, had the that night when you caught Cunningham on the side of the road loading his car up, and it had it hidden in it. And at one time I knew, I've still got the DVD somewhere, but you could push forward / back, something else.
It was like right, down, left, main menu or something like that.
Something. And it would pull up all this hidden video of when you guys caught him loading the car that night. And it was just hilarious.
Sorry. Just bring it closer. There you go. Don't worry about it cutting out. So. Yeah, that was a interesting night for sure. We didn't, and I hid that for a reason, because that guy clearly has some money and he was threatening lawsuits, and I'm not trying to trash anybody, but it really came down to the spirit of the event and making it clear that this is what the event's about. And he was blatantly cheating behind people's backs and trying to hide it. It was
yeah, for certain.
Yeah. And we talked on a previous podcast, actually the previous guest we had on here, Chase Lautenbach, we talked a lot about 1320 video history and things that have stemmed off from that. Obviously Freiberger went on to be part of Roadkill, and that started a few years after this with Finnegan, which is cool. And then that's come full circle. Now they've relaunched that on YouTube last week, which is cool, because they were just such a great combination. So it's cool to see them back together doing stuff.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Street Outlaws. Fast forward to the last, 7 years? How long have you been hanging out with the Street Outlaw guys?
Since season 1. So they let me in the 4th race of season 1, which would have been
really.
It was
track race or street race?
Track race for No Prep Kings.
Yep.
They let me into No Prep Kings. It was 4th of January in 2018. Went to Tucson.
That's cool. What was that experience like?
It was pretty crazy, because they tried to get me on and run on the street a couple of times before, and I kept telling them, I wasn't interested because I knew it was TV. I knew they were going to take the drag week guys or drag and drive guys and just try and turn them into fodder. Because I knew the editing would, you could go out there and outrun these guys 3 out of 4 times on the street. Well, which one do you think they're going to air?
Yeah.
So I didn't go. But I always said, and I wasn't a big street race guy. I mean, we all have, but I just wasn't a big street race guy because I drive my stuff enough that I didn't want the lady 2 blocks down on the street, holding her kids, pointing at it, going, that's the guy that's out there street racing.
Yep.
Instead, it turned into this crazy thing that everybody wanted to watch, and I still wasn't interested in going. But I always said when they if they ever brought it to the racetrack, I'd be all in. And finally they did with No Prep Kings. And so then it was, like I said, 4th race the first season before they'd let me in because of the truck and blah, blah, blah. And then away we went.
That's awesome. I think I first started seeing you hang out with Daddy Dave. Were you helping with his racing program or just kind
of? We've worked on 2 or 3 of those guys' cars. We worked on Dave's car, worked on Monza's car, worked on Dean's. Seems like I'm missing somebody, but we've worked on some of their stuff over the years. That first, trying to get into that first season, Reaper was one that actually, campaigned trying to get me in on it. They wouldn't let Finney in for the first 3 races. They finally let me in the 4th race, and then, he and I were both fast. Birdman and I were both fast. He won the majority of the races the first year.
Yeah.
He's the only one that beat me the first year, minus Kai. And then the second season, I had a chance to win the championship and muffed that up at the last race. Took Ryan out and then managed to screw it up. But I helped Murillo there at the last race, and he ended up winning the championship, which was cool.
Yeah, that was so cool to see.
But
love that dude.
Anyway, it just a lot of memories and a lot of traveling and a lot of good racing, and then it started getting. The first year there was no rules. Second year there was weight rules. Then everything just started to evolve into what it has, and now this year again it's no rules. And I when they came out with that, I was like, that'll be the death of this thing.
Oh, I didn't realize that. You'll have to forgive me because I've kind of been out of touch with Street Outlaws since really the beginning of No Prep Kings. Like, it's weird for me because I had a little bit to do with that show being a thing, filming them street racing for 3 or 4 years before it was a TV show. And then all of a sudden during the street racing filming season, they were kind of off limits. They were just focused on that because they wanted to be winning. And, they're filming for 2-3 nights late at night, and they just don't, it was over the weekends. And then and then we'd see them in their off season at street races, which is cool. And then No Prep Kings happened. And then all of my friends that I used to film on the street were off limits for like 8 years, 6 years, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. So I don't know a lot of the history about it, but what are your thoughts on the evolution of it? Just to give people an insight, the TV show basically ended last year, and now it's like a traveling event that they have a live stream of, and they just put on shows at different tracks. It's my understanding.
Well, it's just they quit. They filmed season 6 in 23. They never have aired it, unfortunately, for a lot of the sponsors and everything that were involved. Then season 7, they tried to do a live stream. It lasted mid-season, and then it got dropped. Now there's been some other guys in the stands that were doing some live stream stuff, but actual No Prep Kings, the actual Discovery, or I shouldn't say even Discovery, the actual Pilgrim Studios that were producing it, like I said, no live stream or anything. So this year, I guess they're live streaming it again. I haven't been to any of their events minus last weekend when they did the small tire race, but it's definitely evolved. It's lost some of its luster, I feel, since it went off TV.
Sure.
And that's just part of it. I mean, if you're not right in front of everybody, you're not mainstream anymore.
TV is today, what happened today on TV, not what happened 3 years ago. on TV, and they're still crazed fans as we saw in Bowling Green.
Oh, absolutely.
Just not as many. Like I remember the photos of No Prep Kings when they're filming the TV show, and there was 70,000 people. It's maybe not 50, 40, whatever. They're massive people.
Well, you'd see a line for Sean or Ryan or Kai or, God forbid, Farm Truck Nation used to have a line that was 2 or 3 hours long.
Wow.
It was just crazy. And so it's, like I said, it's just not, you don't have the same attendance, I'll put it that way. It's just part of it. I mean, unfortunately, but the thing about it is that show Street Outlaws, I think, started a little bit of it, but No Prep Kings seemed to really change the face of drag racing and really amped it up, even though it wasn't mainstream NHRA, IHRA, whatever drag racing. It brought it to light and just changed everything, and people started seeing that they could get more money from some sponsors and they could do things differently, and so it helped the sport as a whole tremendously.
100%. I tell everyone there's so many haters about Street Outlaws out there because it's the loudest group to be in drag racing since it started becoming popular, and it's just attracts so many people that want to hate on it. But I tell everyone that Street Outlaws, No Prep Kings have done so many good things for drag racing as a whole. It's opened the eyes of people that have never watched drag racing before, and it's made it literally this generation, the last decade, there's never been a cooler time to own a street car or a drag car than right now. Literally, not just because of Street Outlaws, but there's a big part of it, and that's what's really cool to me. And to see all these guys be able to build these dream cars from what's come from this is so cool. I haven't filmed a lot of these guys for 5-6 years, and then last weekend in Kentucky, to see the level of race cars that these guys have is crazy, including you. Insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's turned into a pro mod car with steel roof and quarters on it. I mean, some people want to have different definitions of what that is, but at the end of the day, case in point, Kai was down at the Winter Series this year. I was down at the Winter Series.
Yeah.
We both had our MPK cars with steel roof and quarters on them. You know, Kai won an event. I ran 360s down there. So it's crazy the performance level of what these cars are capable of.
What's your fastest time in the 8th? Is that quickest?
Well, down there, we went 369 at 201. And then, like I said, 3 months ago, we put smalls on it. And it's just crazy. And then we're going tonight. We're going to run, probably make a couple of runs on smalls, and then we'll flip it over in the morning and put bigs on it. And
really?
And match race and alcohol funny car tomorrow night.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so
that's how you're doing that. That's cool.
Yep.
Man, I kind of want to go over there now. I love that track. It's such a cool place to hang out.
It is.
Get the trees.
And the people are super nice.
Oh, yeah. Midwest. You know the Midwest culture. You lived in it your whole life. It's just insane. Did you ever think from this point that you'd be running 360s?
You know, I joked with Steve Matuzik, the East Owner Automotive, because we had built him a Complimentator car with a little mod motor in it that ran 640s, I think, and then built him a full-fledged pro mod car with a Ford motor in it, twin turbo deal. That I don't even remember how fast we went with that crazy thing, but anyway, it was in my shop the one time. Steve says, "You should buy this." This is back in like 2011. So you should just buy this. I said, "Steve, you could have one. You could have that thing sitting in the shop." And I said, "I couldn't afford to feed that thing, let alone own one." I said, "Now I own 2 of the stupid
Look
things."
at you now, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what did the original Nova run in the 8th back then, roughly?
The fastest that thing's ever been has been 460.
So you ran a full second quicker in this car.
Yeah.
It took a lot of work to get there.
Now that I think about it, yeah.
That's insane. And from a 460 to a 360 takes a lot.
Well, it's also 900 pounds lighter.
Exactly.
That doesn't hurt matters.
And like 1,500 horsepower more.
At least.
Yeah. What would you guesstimate the highest horsepower Street Outlaw car is?
Honestly, probably get this thing shut off. I thought I did it once. Any of the twin turbo stuff is going to be the biggest horsepower stuff out there. So, you know, I don't know. there's probably not anybody really running. I mean, Finney was still running twins out there, I guess, but I mean, they're going to be over 4,000. The centrifugal cars are going to be 3,300, and the screw blown cars probably 33 to 3,500.
That's insane.
Somewhere in there.
Wow. If you want to take a second, check your phone.
No, I think
is it off now?
I think I finally got it shut off.
All right, just making sure. There's so many different places we could go. There's so many things I want to talk about. Going back to Street Outlaws real quick before we depart that topic. Do you have a favorite racer in Street Outlaws outside of yourself?
I don't know if I have any favorite. I got a few I don't care for, but
I'm sure.
No, actually, we're going over there tonight, and Dominator's going to be there tomorrow. So Joe's a good cat. There's just multiple people that have become really, really good friends in that series over there. From one of the newer guys, Jimmy Taylor, and then got to be, when they put us on teams, got to be pretty good friends with the Bird brothers.
Yeah.
So it's just such a diversified, crazy thing. I was talking to Jerry last weekend, actually, and he said that Jimmy Taylor and him got to be pretty good buddies, and Jimmy lives in Tennessee, and, of course, the Birds are down in Louisiana, and he said Jimmy bought an airboat now and comes down there almost every weekend to go out with them and
do
crazy stuff. So
some good friendships come out of it.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's pretty cool.
One of the last times I filmed the Bird Brothers, he went to jail in
Dallas.
Dallas, yeah, that was a fun one.
I remember that.
Wow, what a crazy street race! That was a very memorable one. Who was it? Someone rode back in their trailer because they were trying to get away from the cops real quick. They loaded the car in the trailer, alcohol car. Shut the trailer. He rode in it on the brakes, so he didn't have to strap it down for like 10 minutes, which is a long time with alcohol fumes.
I can't remember who that was, but I remember he got away and Jared didn't.
Yeah. You're in it if you're insane. We've had some crazy moments with those guys, but some of my favorite racers will always be Boosted GT, Mistress, Farm Truck and Asian, just because of the originations of the show. And those guys really haven't changed that much, and they really found a way to leverage what they got into as Street Outlaws long term, especially Farm Truck and Asian. Asian actually designed some of my first T-shirts. He's always been a marketing genius.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is Jeff is he's amazing what he has done. He has taken that thing by the reins and done very, very well with it. I mean, the behind the scenes of the 405 plates and anything that says 405 or Pimp Juice or anything like that, or the little models is all Jeff.
Yeah, he helped me make my Unicorn C5 into a model car. That was Asian. And then Boosted GT picked me up at the airport for my first cash days down in Dallas in 2006. And Mistress, Sean, helped pay for my flight. He pooled some money and some of his money and paid for my flight to come down. So it was a free trip. I stayed with Boosted. Sean and some friends paid for my flight, and the rest is history. So it's cool.
Yeah.
And they haven't really changed that much since.
And people don't realize some of the backgrounds of some of the people. They just see what they see on TV. And just like Boosted as an example, nobody has a clue what he does for it.
Yeah. He plays with some really cool toys.
Yeah.
They're just great people. I always try and keep in touch with most of those guys just to see where they're at. But let's talk about the race last weekend. Actually, let's talk about the race last weekend. No, let's talk about the $75,000 race a month ago that you won.
Yeah.
How was that?
Pretty cool. The race last weekend was actually what prompted that.
I'm sure.
Because I saw that it was $100,000. And I was like, man, when I built this car last year, I built it as light as I could make it, and I also wanted to make it where I could do some different things with it. Running on a big tire, running on a small tire.
Yeah.
No thoughts of doing any radial stuff, but I never run a small tire. So I thought, well, if I do this right, I can make it where I can move the motor around, do some crazy stuff with it. And so anyway, that race come up, and I thought, well, shoot, it's $200 deposit to get in. I was like, whatever. And so I jumped in, and about a week later, I was like, man, I really got to do this now. So I started getting parts gathered up and getting a game plan to do it. And then they had already announced the Shadyside race, the King of the South race. And a friend of mine in Virginia, I texted her, we were talking one day, and I said, man, it'd be really cool to get into that thing. I said, except it's already full. And so he said, well, I'll call Corey and get you on the list. He goes, you know, Corey? I'm like, I have no clue. So
Corey's a great
I got on the list, and I wasn't even entered. And then about 10 days later, he says, hey, you still want to go? And I'm like, sure. So
was that like a warm-up race to Bowling Green?
It was its own race. But,
I mean, for you.
Yeah, but I mean, literally, we put the combination together, and I went out and made a few runs at Flying H, and then we went out and had a Wyco no prep deal out at Flying H, which it was like this table no prep. It was crazy. Ran Joey, ran Lance Carnegie out there. And then I think we went to Tulsa. So when I rolled in the gate at Shadyside, I had 16 runs on that combination. And I thought, man, if we can just go down there and learn some things and kind of see how we fall out with everybody else. And, you know, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, man, if I could go to the semis, or go to the quarterfinals, that'd be really cool out of 64 cars. And, you know, and we unloaded, and every run just kept getting faster and faster and faster. So it was cool.
And you had some really good races there. I think the biggest gap you had was in the first race, Turbo John, I think.
Yeah.
And then Kai Kelly, at pretty much every race, the other car would get out on you for maybe like 60 to 150 feet, and then you would just creep on by for like half car to a car and a half for all those races.
Yeah, Turbo John, I knew we'd be okay, and he had problems, and I shut mine off a little bit early because it was getting over by the guardrail. But then we ran Kai, and I knew Kai was really fast down low, 60-foot wise, but I was pretty confident we could still get around him, and he knew it was coming, but he was defeated in the shutdown. So last weekend he was giving me hell again about it. You know, he says, I got a present for you. I got you a lockup. I'm like, I said, that's good. You're going to need it. But, you know, we raced Kai. We raced,
let's see, Ryan Mitchell.
What
do you think about the compressed air setup since he's a local to you?
You know, Ryan has run so many combinations over the years, and he's done well with pretty much every one. He's not afraid to try anything and get after it. The compressed air deal, I like the principle of it. I mean, it's really cool. The thing that bothers me about it, me personally, is 3,200 pounds of compressed anything in the car. I'm the guy that always looks at things from a worst case scenario safety aspect, and I don't want to crash a car with that kind of pressure in the car or. You know, I mean, I think you could probably secure a bottle where the bottle wouldn't be flying around.
Yeah.
Or all three of them, but you've still got a hose connecting the bottles to the regulator. And I mean, I went and talked to the guys down at Tulsa and talked to David Pierce and talked to Mark and told them some of my thoughts on it. And it's a cool deal. But me personally, I just can't.
It's a big learning curve.
It would be, well, not the learning curve. That part, I always like a challenge. I just don't, from the safety aspect, I don't want those bottles in the car. And that's just me personally. I mean, Joe and I, Dominator, were talking about it last week. And he's like, I was going to try and do this and put a shield around stuff and everything else. I'm like, Joe, I get it. I said, it's just not for me.
Interesting. Yeah. Going on, you raced Shelby Lynn in that beautiful Challenger. Oh my God, it was there this weekend too in Bowling Green. And then it was Ryan Hendrickson, who we saw race at Cots a bunch in the semifinal, and then the closest race was you and Lyle Barnett.
Yeah,
in the final. What a great race!
Yeah, I knew. You know, Lyle's always good on the tree, and I'd been pretty decent on the tree. I'm usually not that guy, but I'd actually been pretty decent. I'd been from like 14 to 40, which for me that's pretty good. But I knew Lyle would probably be 20s, and so we got up there for the final, and Ryan was late the round before, which he was late the round before that. So I was pretty confident he was going to be late again, and he was. And I was decent, but against Lyle, he was 40, I think, and I was 56. We were both late. and I think that's what hurt him as much as anything. One, getting outran, but I think he was personally wounded because he knew he only had to go 33 or faster to win the round, and that's normally Lyle. He's usually good on a tree, and I think that's what just kills him about it, that it was there for the taking.
Yeah, and that's one of the hardest things about drag racing is getting that tree and the human factor involved. Mm-hmm. You can make a car as fast as you want, but if you got a slow reaction time, you're never going to win.
Yeah.
Against equal cars, at least. And then this weekend in Bowling Green, $100,000 race. It was interesting to see half as many cars show up, but I personally kind of liked it, and it worked out for the race because of all the delays that happened. It was good to have 64 and not 128 cars.
I agree.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. And I was glad we had 63 or whatever instead of 65 because that would have made just one more round.
That scared me for a second.
Yeah, when we were doing driver's meeting and I thought it was going to go from 64 to 65, I was like, oh, my God, no, please.
That worked out. But what's some of the highlights for you from last week?
It was different because, once again, we made a lot of runs at Shadyside, but the racetrack was good. It was prepped. It wasn't crazy prep, but it was prepped well. And then we go to this no prep race that Boosted put on, and it was off the trailer, which, once again, I don't have that many runs. My data bank for small tires is pretty small, so I wasn't really sure where to go. And luckily, I got a decent draw, and I didn't make it clean run the first time. I pedaled it once and got by the guy, luckily. And then Saturday, I made a good run, and we got by second round. And then, of course, we thought we were going to get it all in Saturday night, and then it sprinkled. And we're like, that's fine. Well, here come the deluge about 30, 40 minutes later, and it stopped, and they had the track dry again. And the racetrack still looked pretty good, and then it just poured, and it was just crazy because it popped up right on top of us and poured and poured and poured.
Bowling Green's here, and there's a river that snakes around it. My guess is what happened is these it was cloudy all day, and then these clouds just blew up over the water, and it was only at Bowling Green where it was raining. That was it. There's no rain in the forecast. It rained on and off for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And they tried drying it for 6, and at 10:30 or 11 they called it.
It was about 9:30, quarter to 10. Because once the sun went down, the humidity was so high, and we were right next to the river, like you said, and you could just see the fog bank coming in off the river, and they couldn't get it dry. They got the surface dry, but what people don't understand is it's about the shutdown, and the shutdown's usually asphalt and porous, and it takes longer to get the shutdown dry so that you don't crash in the shutdown than it does the actual racing surface. And Bowling Green, it has asphalt on the center line and out by the wall, so they were concerned about that too. There was a little water coming up in the left lane about 100, 150 feet out, and finally they called it, which I felt like was the right decision.
I agree.
But
there were a lot of fans that were in the stands in 105-degree heat index weather for 7 hours waiting for racing to start again. That were there was about to be a riot, but I'm glad they made that call. But there was just some people that really want to see some racing.
Well,
and you got to make the call for safety with cars with 4,000 horsepower.
And we hadn't taken any paint off anybody's car all weekend long. So, and I told Boosted,
that was the thing that was wild to me.
And I told Boosted, I said, we got 4 rounds left. We can't finish it tonight.
Yeah.
Why take this chance now? Let's just wait. Yep. Start tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. It's going to be hot and miserable, but it's not dark and wet. So.
Yeah. But going into that race, I haven't seen a lot of these guys, especially Street Outlaws, for years, including yourself. And just like I mentioned earlier, to see the evolution of cars is just crazy. And there's also other racers that hung out in the No Prep Kings world, or just no prep racers that came out of the woodwork for $100,000 pot. It was so cool to see so many different cars that I hadn't seen before. It was very refreshing, rather than going to the same race with the same racers, the same track. It was really cool.
Yeah, Shadyside was the same way, King of the South. I'd seen, you see all the videos, you see all the Facebook posts, you see all the stuff from, the Preston brothers and just everybody from Turbo John, just everybody that's there that's fast.
Yeah.
And then then also last weekend, once again, then you see some more guys that you haven't seen. I mean, Scott Taylor was there with John Doe, and that ended up winning it and took us out 4th round. But once again, I'd never run anything on small, so I hadn't been around that side of the world, and so to see everybody like that, like you said, it was, especially where you haven't been back there, to see the kind of power plants and the quality of the cars and everything else is just nuts what it's turned into.
Yeah. To me, it's not as cool, me personally, because I went to an NHRA race early on in my filming, and I was like, everybody's got the same big block with twin turbos, big block with nitrous, big block. Everyone's got the same 481X with a blower, or there's really not many turbo cars out there anymore. But and I love turbos, so that was kind of a turn off. But to see the characters, the style of the cars is unique. Like, people still have some cool style in building these cars. They have their own flair and their personalities, and that's what makes it cool to me. The cars aren't really as cool to me. I love street cars. That's my passion. But the people, it made it entertaining this weekend. It was really cool to hang out in that world again.
Yeah, I mean, and you still got, the variety. That's the other thing that's nice about that too, is you got Chris Rankin with that car he's got. You got Brandon Sandlin with the Studebaker. You've got
the C3.
Yeah, you've got
thing.
You've got so many different things that you see out there, styles of cars. I mean, power adders are all similar. Unfortunately, I'm a big turbo guy too, but the no prep side of things has kind of pushed the turbo stuff away a little bit just because of how they deliver power. But
what is the reasoning for that? I was curious.
The no prep stuff usually is pretty good early in the racetrack and not so good towards the finish line. Well, the turbo cars, it's changed a little bit over the last 3, 4, 5 years, but the turbo cars were always known for not running that quick or fast early, 60 foot, 150 feet, and really pouring it on.
Opposite what you need.
Really pouring it on out the back. Well, when you get a surface that won't take that kind of power out the back, then you can't apply it. So if you can't apply it, you're never, and somebody gets out on you with a screw car or whatever, you're never gonna catch them because you can't apply that power. So that's why that you see the turbo part of it kind of fade away.
That makes sense,
especially in the big tire part.
Yeah, and especially on Friday of the race this past weekend, because they usually spray the shutdown for safety, and they got into the track by a couple 100 feet, and so Boosted caught it and made him clean the track. So everything was fine until like 400 feet out. And then cars got really unsettled the first day until the weather kind of evened things out and the rubber kind of evened things out. There was a few scary moments there for sure.
Yeah. But like I said, knock on wood, as far as I know, nobody touched the wall, which was pretty amazing for a small tire no prep race.
I know. I was waiting for it, especially with how hot it was out there. It was like 100-degree heat index first day, 105 the second day, even hotter the third day. And luckily, we got the race done just in time for Matt and I to catch our flight that night, because I didn't want to stay hang around for another day after 3 days of heat.
Yeah.
It was insane. Let's see. Let's talk about the evolution of your cars. So we started with the Chevy 2, and that car eventually ended up with turbos.
Mm-hmm.
It was originally a big block with the blower.
Way back when.
When did you start drag racing? Let's start with that real quick.
That was a long time ago. Gosh, I don't know. I was probably 18. So what would that be? 47 years ago?
88.
That's when I bought the car. So I just started drag racing in 78 or 9.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
So last night I actually learned something about you that made things make a little more sense, because I could tell you're a small town boy that's grown up into this crazy world, and I never really put my finger on it. One of my best friends, Joel Cox, you were in high school with his mom and raced his dad, Gary Cox, back in Sharon Springs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I didn't know you're from Sharon Springs.
Mm-hmm.
Town of how many people roughly?
Less than 1,000.
Yeah. That made a lot of things clicked there at that moment. But I've been a longtime friend with Joel for, I don't know, 15 plus years, and I had no idea. His mom was Belinda Bolin.
Yeah. She's actually lived about 4 miles from where I grew up. Yeah, for sure. Same class as me and everything.
I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Oh, that's crazy.
I learned this last night having steak with Joel. Pretty cool.
No, that's funny.
So you got into drag racing in the 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
What was the first car?
I had a 74 Nova when I was in high school, and it was pretty much just all stock back then. Grew up on a dairy farm, so we were always busy with that. And then bought a 69 big block 4-speed Camaro right out of high school. Raced it some, and then I'd been racing motocross too, so I raced motocross pretty hot and heavy through the 80s, and then got back into doing the car stuff again, and bought that Chevy 2 in 88, I believe it was.
Really?
And so anyway,
what color was it when you bought it?
Dark blue.
Okay. Interesting switch up.
Yeah, it was just a old back half car sitting on the side of the road. Pretty crazy. I was going with a friend of mine out to California to pick up a 66 Chevy 2 that Gary Stennett owned, and he ended up taking it out to California to have his dad sell it. So here we go from Colby, clear out to California. We drive through Guyman. That thing's sitting at a Goodyear tire store, and we stop. 4 inches of snow. I'm down on the ground looking underneath it and everything else. So anyway, on the way back, I give the guy a deposit and go back a week later and pick it up. But
what state was that in? California?
No, that was in Guyman, Oklahoma.
Where
the car was at. But we were on a trip to pick up another one for him, and saw that one on the way.
You just snatched one along the way on the way back.
So crazy story. I mean, typical deal. There's always a story. But anyway, got it back, put it together, put a big block in it, ran it that year. It was still blue, raced it a couple times. I mean, I've got video from Great Bend with it dialed on a 1180 or something.
Really?
With a 5-speed in it, and single 468, just a street car. And then changed it over, put a 4-link under it. Same basically engine combination. We drove that thing from there to Denver a couple of times, just drove it all over the place because that's what we did, And,
driving in the car.
Yeah. We drove it to a division race to help a friend of mine with his alcohol funny car. We drove it 100 degrees outside, and we drove that thing clear to Denver, 200 and some miles, and turned around and drove it home.
You were perfectly conditioned for a drag and drive.
Yeah.
At that point in your life.
So that was, like I said, that was just a big block 5-speed deal. And then moved to Topeka in mid-90s. Got down there. I think I cut that thing up in Christmas of 94, I think. I cut everything out of it and built a tube chassis for it. And then put the same combination back in it. Well, take that back. Put literally a Detroit 671 blower on the thing with carburetors on it, and ran it. And then me and Pat Tiefert, another guy in Topeka with the Houston Street Race, the yellow 57 Chevy, we were on a race to see who could be the first one in the 8s.
Really? What year roughly was that? Late 90s?
Had to be 90. That had to be about 95, probably 95.
And was he driving his car too, or?
Oh yeah,
really?
It was a 572 with 2 kits on it, I think. It was a really cool car, set super, super low. But yeah, he drove it around. We all did. Mike Crow was there.
Really?
With his CUDA.
So you've known him for a long time.
Oh yeah, since early 90s.
Huh.
He had his CUDA with a 5-speed in that thing. So ran over there, did that, and then moved to Kansas City in 96, 7. Anyway, ended up swapping it over, putting a bigger blower on it, put a Lenco in it in the late 90s. And
one of the coolest transmissions.
Yeah, put a Lenco in it because I couldn't keep the Nash together anymore. Did that.
And then the Lenco has these rods that you pull, or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah,
levers.
they're individual shifters, so every gear's a different lever. So
do you clutch the launch? It's all automatic.
No, the launch is clutch pedal on the launch.
Yeah.
But that's it.
It's like a sequential, but it's a different style of transmission. You have 5, 6 levers.
Yeah, you can have a 2-speed, 3-speed. I mean, you could have an 8-speed if you wanted to stack that many sections on it. But it's basically a planetary gear set and a clutch pack in each section, and each section is a separate gear. So you've got a different lever for every gear, and then a forward and reverse in the back.
Mm-hmm. When I'm thinking about what cars I'm putting GoPros in to watch the driver, yours is always that transmission. Any car it's in, I always want to put a GoPro in that car. It's so cool to see it work.
Something going on.
The shifting. Was your motivation behind that because you like to drive it everywhere and you wanted different, like the drivability, or was it?
Well, I was always a clutch guy. Always a clutch guy from helping other people and doing stuff over the years, and then with the business, we did a lot of comp eliminator and pro stock stuff. So always a clutch guy. Never was an automatic guy. So
look at you now.
Huh?
Look at you now.
Yeah, that thing still got a clutch in it.
Okay, whatever.
But
wait, hold on a second. Who got to the 8 first?
What's that?
Who got to the 8s first?
I did.
Oh, okay, nice. Congrats. No, was that a actual manual 5-speed?
Yeah, it was a Doug
Clutching
Nash.
at every shift?
No, it was
Okay.
So my Crow I had an old street 5-speed, and that thing was just, it was great till you made 800-900 horsepower. Well, Mike had a race 5-speed in his, and I was like, man, you can drive one of them on the street? And he's like, oh yeah. So I go buy one of those, and then we're crashing that thing around on the street. So yeah, drove that until it wouldn't take that kind of power anymore, and then changed up.
All right, sorry to interrupt you. I had to know.
No, you're good.
Congrats.
So anyway, and then here comes drag week.
Yeah.
You know, in 05, and because I'd changed stuff around, put a 1471 on it, because I went to Craig at BDS back in, gosh, I don't know when it was, early 2000s maybe, and told him, I said I want to put a blower on this thing, put EFI on it, because I'd had EFI on it back in 98, I believe, too, which was one of the early EFI street cars. And I told him, I said, I want to do this deal up, and I said, I want it to run 890s on pump gas at 150. I don't care if it's 100 degrees outside. And he's like, yeah, you and everybody else. So we pulled it off. I went to the next year, and I said, here you go. So we managed to do that, and the combination stayed pretty much the same. I played around with it a little bit. We ran it in Super Street at NHRA one year at a division race. I wanted to go 1090s at 150 and just no delay box, just go out, leave the starting line, just roll off the throttle, count to 3, and then deck it. So we've done some crazy stuff.
Oh my gosh!
But anyhow, along comes drag week in 05, and we roll in there, and everybody, you included, everybody's like, what is this guy doing?
Everyone's pulling their cars off trailers.
Yeah, but what is this guy rolling in there with a Lenco and a blown big block and a Lenco, and they're like, there's no way this guy's driving this thing this whole way, and I've got no trailer, no nothing. So we make one run, because Freiberger, I'll never forget this, Freiberger is so adamant. He's standing on that tailgate. He's like, well, we're giving away nitrous and we're doing all this, but I said, well, what about, can we buy fuel at the race? Nope. I said, we can't buy race gas? Nope. Because I got my other pulley and stuff, because I'd run it on one pulley on pump gas, and then I'd swap pulleys on it, speed the blower up, and run it on race gas.
Were the rules in the magazine?
I don't think so. I think the rules got announced to us on that tailgate. I don't remember.
This was the drivers' meeting before we got started.
Oh yeah, because that's me and Freiberger were like this after he said we couldn't buy gas. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I never took it off pump gas. I went out. Aggravated me, so I went out, went 890 something. We threw all our stuff in the back of that thing and checked out, because no trailer, so we ran it on the same tires, the same everything all week long.
You did that for years.
And so we peeled out
when
of there.
you showed up, did you think anybody was going to beat you?
I had no idea. I mean,
but where did you think you were at in the field? Do you think it'd be hard to beat?
Well, I mean, Carl Scott showed up and Phil Scott showed up.
Did you know them before that?
No.
Yeah.
Both with Chevy 2s. One was a big block, one was a small block, both nitrous cars. Didn't know. I'm standing there watching, and then you had Steve Moore show up with his wagon.
Yes.
And he threw the guts out of that thing out there.
First day.
Yeah. And so he was done. Some things never change.
I forgot he was there. Holy crap.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Only thing that'd be crazier is if Tom Bailey was there.
So anyway, we load up, we go to St. Louis, And, none of us, I mean, and I'm pins and needles because, I mean, we've driven our stuff, right? But
not like
100
that.
miles, we'd drive it to Topeka, drive it to wherever in that form, I mean, years back, I drove it at 200 or 300 miles, but in that form, I hadn't.
Did you know how many miles there were for the week leading up to this? Or just like you knew roughly what it'd be to get to each city?
But we had no idea the route maps and stuff. So they took us on our usual 2-lane, windy, this, that, crazy stuff. So we peel out. We get over to St. Louis about 5:30 that night. We're in the pool having a beer when everybody else starts, rolling in.
And if you didn't know, Larry Larson usually leaves as early as he can, never obeys. He's always at the speed limit, and he gets there early to prepare for the next day, right?
I like to be prepared in case something goes wrong,
Exactly.
so I try and get out of there.
It's hard to catch you. We always want to find you on the road, but we have to wait till the end of the race, so we barely ever see you unless you break that day.
Yeah, and knock on wood, that's fairly rare. But
yeah, so you got to the hotel drinking some beers.
Yeah, and so we get there. So we get up the next morning, roll into St. Louis, do it all over again, and all of a sudden Rob Canan comes running over there, and which I knew Freiberger, and that was about it. And Keith Turk was there, and so we're loading up. We go out there and go 890 whatever again, and Rob's like, "What are you doing?" We're leaving. What, right now? Yeah. We're going to run across the street, put air in the tires, and air the tires up, and we're checking out. We're going to Bowling Green.
Yeah.
Right now. I'm like, yeah, right now. So we leave, take off on their map.
Because he wanted to get photos of you on the road.
No.
Oh.
He didn't say what. He just was like, he's asking. And we're like, whatever, we're on a mission, so we're getting out of here. So we leave and head down there, miss a couple of turns, turn around, come back, stop for ice cream on the way, and, finally get to Bowling Green. Get there the next day, and Keith Turk walks up, and he said, Rob followed you down here yesterday. I'm like, no. And he said, oh, yeah. He said, that's why he was screwing around trying to figure out what time you were leaving.
Oh, he wasn't ready.
He wasn't ready to leave. So while we were over getting
because he's expecting to shoot most of the race because he was the editor.
So while we're over there putting air in the tires and getting fuel, then he's scrambling around. So he follows us down there in that Crown Vic he was driving. And so I told Keith, I said, well, that had to be uneventful. And he goes, oh, yeah. He said, you missed a couple of turns, stopped for ice cream, blah, blah, blah. He said, because everybody was just adamant that you were leaving early before everybody else did, loading that thing in a trailer and hauling it down there before anybody else left. I'm like, well, I guess he saw something better than that,
Yeah.
So
of all people, they followed the wrong person.
Yeah. So
you had a lot of practice.
So yeah, that first week. I think there was 41 cars that started that event, but nobody knew what to expect. I mean, nobody done anything like that. We were just winging it. This following all the rules, but we had no clue.
Yeah. This is only 2 to 3 years into me filming race cars. Like I was doing car stereos till 02, 03. And then I get into the drag racing world. And this is one of the first drag racing events that I filmed. And I'm like, this is crazy. I can't believe these guys are doing this. And I'm just riding around in an air conditioned truck. So it was a whole different.
So there was no real rules that first year, right?
Yeah.
And Parrish shows up with his truck.
And
an open trailer,
entire
packed
shop
clear full of crap on that trailer, and everybody's like, "Oh my god!"
That's why there's trailer rules. Is because that first event, Parrish bought literally like two drums of race fuel, his welder, a generator,
toolbox, everything.
Like Boy Scout prepared for everything. Trailer full of his entire shop.
It was crazy.
Yeah, but there were only rules that you learned when you got there.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it was pretty nuts. And it was so, that year, most people don't know, but that was the only year that it didn't start and stop in the same place.
Yep. And trailers were allowed to follow, and that was part of the problem.
Correct. Yes. That's what created.
Yeah. So in case no one's familiar with this is the first drag and drive to ever happen. No one had ever done. There's been streetcar cruises at an event from the track back to the track. As far as we know, that was the first drag and drive to the next track, drag, drive to the next track. And there were a lot of rules changes after that first one to make things either a little easier, a little harder, easier to police. So starting at the one track, going to 3 other ones, coming back to that track, made it so that people didn't need to have their trailers with them, and it avoided the issue of trailers following a race car because they're like in the middle of the event, they're like, well, you can follow the route, but you can't be right with the race car because we're worried about you're going to load them up, type of thing. Which ended up going back to the person that we were talking about earlier. There were suspicions as well within the racers community of him not driving his car to each of the tracks. Like if you looked at in National Trail in Ohio, someone mentioned it to me. I looked at his radiator and there's like 2 bugs on it in the middle of the summer. I'm like, So we did the same thing Rob did, and I hopped in another truck. It was actually the truck that we had a trailer on, I think.
Somebody's Cummins, I remember.
It was Dodge, yeah, Scott's Cummins. And same thing. We followed him. It felt really weird, but we followed him for like 2 hours. He went to a steakhouse. So we hung out there at Sonic, ate our Sonic real quick so we could be ready for it to leave. He was in there for like an hour and a half. And then we drove another hour and a half to another stop. And then we drove another like 30 to 60 minutes to a rest area. I'm like, this is kind of weird. And he pulls up to the rest area. We sit at the exit ramp to the rest area at the back end. I'm zoomed all the way in on my little Sony camcorder as far as I can see. And I'm just like focused watching what's going on, creeping on these guys. And there's a trailer that pulls up and parks next to him. And then they sit there for another half hour. So this is literally like an 8-hour ordeal. And then at like midnight, it starts raining. As they left, it starts raining. And then they go down the side road. It's really close to Lingenfelter is where it happened. I forget where they're at.
I remember we were on the way from Columbus to Martin.
Yep.
Actually, and it was before everybody got to, can't even think of where the hotel was at that night, but yeah, it started raining.
I had the window cracked. We were at the entrance to this dirt road where they were loading up, and I was filming through this crack in the window with my little camcorder, just waiting for something to happen. I was almost out of tape. Like I was at the end of my tapes that I brought with me that I plugged in the camcorder. And so I would like keep rewinding and recording over it until something happened. And then it was parked behind this trailer, and they finally opened the gate. Like they were waiting for the rain to stop, I think. And they finally opened the gate, loaded up real quick, and drove off. And we left before they left so we wouldn't be seen. And we pulled in this gas station, and here they come into the same gas station. And I won't mention who was driving the truck, but he was a well-known person in the drag racing community. I talked to him in the gas station. I was like, hey, have you seen so-and-so lately? I was like, oh, we saw him like on the road somewhere, but we haven't seen him since then. I'm like, really? Okay. And that's when it sealed the deal. We're turning this guy in. And then we get to the track, and it's raining really hard. And they're talking about canceling the last day. And we're like, there's like 6 of us that know about this. Like, man,
what was bad was when I came out of the hotel that next morning, that particular car was sitting right in front of the hotel. It was not in the trailer. It appeared that he had driven the car the whole way.
Yep.
So somewhere from the time you had seen it till the time, daylight in the morning, they had unloaded it and put it back in front of the hotel.
Yeah. And we were worried about them claiming, well, we did this for safety. And obviously they're trying to hide something.
Sure.
So we're like, how's this going to go? And I think it was right before they announced they're going to race, we took the video to Keith Turk, gave him the $100 to contest him. And I think Jim still has the $100 bill signed by all the Hot Rod Magazine people. But it got pretty nasty after that. Not at the event, but apparently he spent a lot of money getting it ready for the next drag week, and Hot Rod Magazine sent him a notice that he's not welcome at their events. Yeah, you're banned. And he did a lot of crazy things online, like taking photos that I posted, like before the race and after the race, of Jim's truck on his trailer, saying that was during the event.
Oh, wow.
And I was with him every single second. Well, except for when we were following that guy. So that was interesting. And the spirit, that's what set the tone for all Dragon Drives. And I feel like with how diluted things have gotten, there's like 40 to 50 Dragon Drives each year, which I love. Like, it's a sport that everyone should enjoy. The spirit has changed a little bit, and there are some more casual Dragon Drives, and there are some really serious Dragon Drives. Hot Rod Magazine, still a very serious Dragon Drive. But like, some people are just allowed to do things that typically wouldn't allow them to. And so we just kind of stay out of that anymore because there's so many events, and we just let event organizers run their own thing.
Yeah, and that's the part, I guess, and maybe it's because I was on the very first one. And everybody took everybody took pride in what they did and what they achieved. And now it's like, once again, I have not been to a drag and drive since 17, and I've not been to one that was over 250 cars. But what I saw in 15 when I went and watched Drag Week start over there and everybody take off, and when they had brought in a new trailer rule, and here they are changing rules on the fly, and as people were coming through tech, and I'm asking questions, and then they're like, well, we never thought about that. I was like, well, what are you making rules for if you're not going to enforce them? I'm like, I still have pride in what I accomplished, whether I took a trailer or not or what, you know, whether it be with the S10 or the Chevy 2. And it just it just was annoying because it seemed like it was really good from like up till about 09 is when I noticed that there was some individuals came in and started thinking that they could do whatever they wanted and just get by with some stuff that we never
at some point it gets too big to have to police
Police.
everybody, and then if you boot someone for this, then you have 10 other people that you find out you have to boot as well, and they might be leaders in their classes.
But the point is, if you don't call a foul on somebody, then all of a sudden this turns into, you know, from NBA basketball to Sandlot. I mean, it's just the whole thing.
You just have to do
changed.
it for yourself now. There's no hard certification. You're a badass streetcar driver that really means the same thing.
Yeah.
To me. But you know, the family feeling is what drives me to these drag and drives now. And there's so many different types. Like, I really want to go to one on the West Coast. Like, it's not a serious competitive race, but the scenery's amazing. Northwest, like Rocky Mountain Race Week, much more casual. You got drive days. Six Summers got a lot of fanfare and entertainment, and it's like drag week, but less serious, but also serious competition. It's just more of a, I don't know. They all have their own flavor.
Yeah, I've got a guy trying to get me to go out to the West Coast this year, which I doubt if I'll do. Kind of, you know, the plan is still to go to Drag Week this year, and I think that's going to be totally different because it looks like it might be a little shorter because the tracks are pretty compacted up there. There's a couple, or at least one that I haven't been to track-wise, but it's going to be up in, you know, New York and up in that area, and I have no idea what that's going to be like up there as far as traffic and roads and everything. So that's going to be different.
There was a heated discussion online, speaking of shorter routes, a few weeks ago about, would you consider a 500-mile drag and drive a drag and drive? What's your thoughts?
You know, I don't think you need to go 1,500.
I agree.
I don't know. There's so many. Everybody has their opinion, right? I mean, this is the thing. We all know that there's some guys out there that if it's more than about 50 miles, their car won't make it. And they can go to the racetrack and go really fast and beat the hair off their chest. But if it's more than 100 miles, it won't make it.
Exactly.
And all I can say is that I've always said, you know, you got all these guys carrying all these parts and tearing these things apart and rebuilding it. And there's some cool stories about guys changing motors or doing this and doing all this crazy stuff, right? And I get it. It's cool magazine. It's cool, you know, footage or whatever. But I have always said, if my vehicle won't make it 1,000 miles without having the heads or the oil pan off of it, that ain't no street car.
Hell yeah. I
so
love that.
If I gotta pull a head off, I'm chopping it off. Now, knock on wood, I've done 11 of these. We finished every one.
That's amazing. Really? I didn't realize that.
Yep.
That's a crazy accomplishment. 11 completed drag and drives. And a lot of people that go into this with a car as serious as what you have, they do the first one kind of as a warm up, and they're like, you know, if we don't make it, we don't make it.
Yeah, we've done 11.
Wow.
Done 11. They've all been in unlimited, and
that's sweet.
Everyone.
That all in unlimited too. I think I can remember. I wasn't at this event, but I think I can remember back to what track was it at? The one with the crazy shutdown at the top end that goes into the forest.
Kakana.
Yeah.
Kakana, Wisconsin.
Was that one of your most difficult days? Because I can't remember if you had made a pass or not, but I seem to remember either you didn't have a good pass or hadn't made a pass, and you were trying to convert your car over because you were late to the drag strip. right?
The worst day we ever had was in 14 when we brought the S10 out, and we had driven it like
race week.
No,
okay,
it was drag week in 14 with the truck was the worst one. We literally had got the truck done, driven it like 6 miles, and we hadn't even started it on alcohol till the Sunday night before the event, or at the racetrack at Tulsa, and then had alternator belt electrical issues. In the middle of the night, we had. I mean, we hadn't had hardly any sleep in the last 4 or 5 days before it anyway to start the event out, but drove all night through the rain. Had a generator on top of the bed of the truck trying to charge the battery and keep up. It was just horrible. Went from Topeka to Noble, Oklahoma, and pulled in there with like an hour left, and everybody was there to help change it over. But we had went through Augusta, Kansas, and I'd stopped. We went through there. It was part of the route. Went through there. Trying to find a belt from Patterson. Alan Patterson had a race shop there, and I was trying to see if anybody had a cog belt, and nobody. But I'd backed up about 3 feet with the gear vendors engaged, and I knew it as soon as I did it. But everything seemed fine. And we got there, got everything switched over.
Are you not supposed to go in reverse with the gear vendors?
No, not with it engaged.
Gotcha.
And because it will roll the sprag in them, unfortunately. That's just the way they're made, and everybody knows it. It's just a do not do. And so we get down there, and I got everything switched over, let go of the button, and it's like, zzz. So took a 20-second time that day, and still finished the week. But I mean, it cost us a win that year, and
made it through the beams.
Yeah, I mean, but it just, that was the worst week. Just everything. We were behind time. We were always like the last to leave instead of the first. Just brutal.
Just throws you off your game
Well,
from the beginning.
It was just like I said, we had alternator belt issues, and then we had some crank trigger issues, and just the whole week was just long. And
was that so? Did you do drag week and then race week the next year in the summer with the truck?
We did. Yes, okay. We did. We did 14 a drag week.
Yep.
We did Rocky Mountain Race Week. The first year was 15. So
with the truck.
With the truck.
Very memorable drive through the mountains.
Oh my gosh.
I remember getting out for the truck stop in Fairplay, and you opened the door and your floorboard had this much water in it.
Yeah.
One of those things you hadn't seen until that day.
It was crazy. Tim Hajinski went with me that year, and like I said, we pulled out of there, headed up into the mountains, and that was crazy. It was like 100 when we left Denver. Got up into the mountains, it started raining. Everybody was, we were hearing that it was raining up there. We got up there, everything was fine. Had street tires on it. Man, we're blowing through the water. I know you were following us part of the time, and like I said, stopped at Fairplay. It was 64 degrees, and the water had been coming in the tow hook in the top, and I had one little leak on the windshield, and we had, I don't know, a couple inches of water in the floorboard, and had to keep our feet up off the floor. And so then we're in there trying to sop it out, and it was nuts.
This is from...
That's it.
Yeah, there you go. Cruising through the mountains. One of my favorite things to do on a drag and drive is to photograph or take videos of cars in the rain, because it looks so cool, especially the photos with a little bit of motion blur on them. So sweet.
Yeah.
How painful was it to have a trailer behind that thing?
I was amazed at how well that thing went through the water and everything else.
Yeah. Did the trailer help keep you straight?
We didn't have any issues. It was just, I was surprised, even with those huge tires, that it actually went through. Didn't try and hydroplane or do anything silly, because there was times when it was raining hard, not just like that. And we went over that one pass that was like, 9,600 feet, I think, that day, and it was a cool drive, because most people don't get a chance to take their car up into the mountains and stuff like that. So it was cool.
That will forever be my favorite drag and drive, as going through the Rocky Mountains on Rocky Mountain Race Week. Yeah. I hope that we get to do that again one day.
Yeah, and then you come right back down into dusty, dirty Pueblo out there, and on the
it's a roller coaster
plateau out there, and it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Rewinding back real quick, I just wanted to mention the very first drag week, setting the tone for the future drag and drives and the torture that people are willing to go through. Talk about setting the bar high. Carl Scott rebuilding his engine on the second to last day in the gravel parking lot in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Some of our friends went to Summit, got some pistons for him, and they rebuilt the motor in the parking lot. And I still remember the moment of them pulling in the gate.
Me too.
I heard the announcer said, "Here comes Carl Scott. Oh my God, I can't believe he made it." And I ran to the parking lot to film him pulling into the track. That was such a cool moment.
Yeah.
And he won the event.
Yeah. Yeah, they file fit the rings. Well, I shouldn't say file fit them. They grinder fit the rings with a 4-inch grinder. I mean, it was so crazy cool. Burn it up, put it back together, got up there, pulled in. We ran at because he still had to go. That was Columbus he pulled into, and then so we still had to go from Columbus.
Oh, that's right.
To Martin.
It was the third day. Yep,
yeah.
You're right.
So we still had to go to Martin, and then when we got to Martin, like you were talking, after all that fiasco that night, it had rained and was still raining, and everybody headed out there. Oh, that's right, because I think Freiberger coming up and asked me if I'd take Canan out to the racetrack. I said, sure. So Rob got in with me and we headed out there and we get to the racetrack and there was probably, I don't know, a dozen cars out there maybe. And Hot Rod had somebody there filming that year. I don't know if you remember that or not, but whoever it was. And we came in the parking lot and there was just enough open space and the asphalt was wet. And I looked at Rob and I said, "You ready?" And he's like, Rob says, "Ready for what?" And I just stuck the thing in second and zipped the throttle, and we did a couple of donuts and stopped. And Rob's like, because he had no clue what was happening. So we did all that, and then it rained and rained and rained, and so they're trying to decide whether they're going to call the event or not or what. And I remember getting everybody together behind the tower and asking everybody if we wanted to wait another few hours. And, we're like, man, we drove 1,500 miles to finish this thing. We'll wait till whenever. So they kept trying. Well, in the meantime, I don't even remember how, but I ended up, Brian Lones and he wanted to go for a ride. Same thing, Lenco in the car. So we go out on interstate and go back south and we turn around, we come north, and I leg that thing up to about $160, and Brian's in there trying to hold the video camera going down the highway. So, I mean, it was crazy. Came back. So it was the last day. Once again, Freiberger wouldn't let us buy fuel, or wouldn't let the racetrack sell us fuel.
Yeah.
So I had one of Moran's guys bring me some fuel, change spark plugs, put the other pulley on it, put race gas in it, and went out there and went 838 at 165 or something. And fastest Carl had been was like 858 or something like that.
It was consistent 850s.
So him and Phil Scott both went over there, and I don't know what they put in them things for jets or if they even had any in them by that time, but they both went out there and burnt their stuff up trying to go faster.
I remember that because I think this might be the first time I actually put a GoPro in a car. Was Carl Scott's in Michigan. I think it was when he was trying to run quicker than you.
Yeah.
And I took my camera that I was filming with on the side of the track, put on a tripod, and zip tied it to the roll bar to get the video in the car. I was like, I got to see this.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll put it on his roof.
It's pretty funny.
And then he did later.
Yeah.
But I love Carl Scott. I miss that guy. I haven't seen him for a while, but he fully embodies the spirit of drag week. Talking about a good old boy redneck.
Yeah, I mean, it was just the whole week was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, Chad had him and Daphne had just started seeing each other like 2 weeks before that. And he's like, "Hey, you want to go for a ride for a week?"
Oh, no.
Yeah, they'd literally been seeing each other.
We might as well find out if it's going to work right away.
2 weeks. And so she's like, "Sure." So she loads up and goes with him on the road for a week, Him sitting on that rooster at one of those crazy restaurants. Yep. Oh, my gosh.
That's true love right there.
Yeah.
All right, going back to cars, you got the Chevy 2 we talked a lot about. S10, and then you get into the Cadillac. What was the point where you decided to get in the Cadillac? Was that the beginning of No Prep Kings?
I ran the truck.
Well, you ran the truck for a while.
Yeah. So, I mean, here we go again. I'd ran the truck, drag week in 14, Rocky Mountain Race Week. I took the truck over and won top sportsman at NHRA Nationals in Topeka.
Yep.
And then just doing some different stuff. I've always wanted to do different things, not do the same thing all the time. So
was that race when you debuted the big single?
No, that was
because it was in Topeka when I saw the first photo.
That was at that was actually No Prep Kings.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Never mind. I got it backwards.
Yeah. So anyway,
I saw it in Topeka for the first time.
Yeah. That's the first time it was on there. But anyway, ran all that. Well, here we go with the whole ice cream cruise thing. So there was you guys had a no prep deal up there in 16. So I came up and ran that weekend, kind of got addicted to the no prep thing because it was a challenge to run.
That was a big bucket list thing for me to have you at one of my races, by the way.
Yeah,
so I appreciate you coming. But just so you know, we banned race cars from that day forward.
So anyway, it was fun to come up. We didn't win, but we won a few rounds, and it was fun. And kind of got hooked on the no prep thing because it was a challenge. So started running Shannon Morgan's Redemption Series down in Texas and Oklahoma, and had a ball doing that. And then stepped into NPK, put the single on it. And ran it, and then they, at the end of season 2, which was the end of 18, they said it wasn't going to be legal for season 3.
Yeah, I remember that.
So, because of the
wheelbase,
the
length of the bed?
Because of the height of the bed, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I mean, bottom line, my opinion, none of the 405. It was just I was ahead of everybody else at that point in time. Because those other guys were just a bunch of street racers and hadn't really run on the track. Well, I was kind of the opposite.
Do you think if you lived in Oklahoma, they wouldn't have made that rule?
I don't know. Chuck Parker never did become part of that clan, so I don't know.
Yeah. Who was it that moved to Oklahoma? Oh, it was Lutz, wasn't it? Okay. Anyway, back to your story.
Yeah. So, if you can't beat him, join him, right? Anyway, so the Cadillac was just because the truck wasn't going to be legal, so I had to do something different. And their excuse was, we want something more stock appearing. So I built the Cadillac.
But before that, what did you add to the truck to?
They had this crazy, I shouldn't say crazy, it was plus or minus 3 inches on the wheelbase, and it didn't fit. It's a standard cab short bed, so the wheelbase was the 108. 108. So it could have been 105 to 111, would have been fine, but it was 115 because I built it for drag week. No rules. And so a standard cab long bed is 117. So it fell within that rule. So I'm back and forth with Reaper, and I'm like, let me in. And I said, you got all these old ex-pro stock cars like Birdman's car and a few others that were out there then. I said, they're an altered wheelbase. The rear axles moved forward, blah, blah, blah. I said, so if I put an extension on my bed and make it look like a long bed, it's legal. And he's like, finally a couple days later, right after Christmas in 18, he's like, or in 17, he's like, yeah, you can come. I'm like, okay. So I went out, chopped off the back off of Sonoma and stuck it on there just to bolted it on. And I go clear down to Tucson. I'm like, I don't even want to unload this thing because they're going to look at this and go, absolutely not. And anyway,
the chassis was fine. It was just a goofy body, right?
It was just a weird rule. But then here we go again. After doing good for 2 seasons, then they're like, yeah, no more truck. So I built the Cadillac to go run MPK with, and build it. So it was, because their deal was, we want something more stock appearing. So it had all factory body panels on it and everything else, so that it looked like a real car.
That was a beautiful car.
Yeah.
Of the 4 of them, I'm assuming the original Chevy 2 is still your favorite? Or what do you
I haven't taken that thing out and raced it in forever. The last time I raced it was I had it in the truck up in Denver. Gosh, that had to have been like 19 or 20. I don't even remember. I have to look it up. But we went 701 at 211 on the mountain. And
wow.
So that was pretty cool.
Big accomplishment.
But I really haven't had, I mean, I've drove it, but I really haven't had it to the racetrack. And I really want to again, but I've had too many other stuff, trying to put the truck back together right now. Built a new Chevy 2 last year. So yeah, it's too many vehicles and not enough time.
Speaking of accomplishments, one of the things I regret was not being at Streetcar Supernats when you ran your 6. Was that where you ran your first 6?
Yeah.
I think it's somewhat. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, because we went.
You and Joe Barry went there.
I went 200. You were there when we went 200.
That was one thing I wanted to mention.
Yeah,
that's one of my top 3 photographs I've ever taken. It was when you had turbos and you were able to. I have that photo. I took long exposure with the Indianapolis like lights in the background because Marion's like an hour outside of town, and I think it might have been
1:30 in the morning after that whole race was done.
You guys cooked me chili afterwards. We just hung out for a bit. That was a really cool moment. But it's one of my favorite photos because I love taking long exposure photos. Pitch black and just this amazing vibrant colors. And then Wes from Hot Rod Magazine.
Oh yeah,
photoshopped or gave me his photo with your ET and mile an hour on there. I photoshopped it on the scoreboard.
Yeah,
it's still at my house on the wall. It's one of the only photos I printed. I love that photo. Yeah. But that was a cool moment. First 200-mile-an-hour pass on a Dragon Drive.
Yep,
pretty sweet. By the way, the Cadillac, I went to PRI for the first time this past year, and I was just walking around the booths and stuff. And one of the last cars I saw was your Cadillac, and you were standing right there. And like I said, I don't keep up with No Prep King Street, all that stuff. I knew, but I couldn't. I was really hungover. I was like, oh, Larry's got his car here, and then I was like, what the? There's a diesel in there. What? When did Larry become a diesel guy? It's beautiful. That fabrication. Oh my gosh, what do you think of it now?
It's at my shop right now.
Is it?
Yeah. Jared Ring bought it. He wanted that thing bad. He actually gave me a deposit on it. And I raced it that last year.
Wow.
He'd already bought it. And I said, Jared, I can't, I'm already committed to run this thing. I said, I'll sell it to you. And I said, I'll take your money. But I said, I got to run it this coming year. And he's like, yeah, no problem.
Wow. He really wanted it.
Oh, yeah. So.
Was that nerve wracking for you or you just?
Nah. Okay. I mean, you can't worry about everything, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, we ran it. He got it. We put a diesel in it for him, put that Cummins in it. And then he finished a bunch of stuff, did a really super nice job on what they did down there. And they ran it last year, second outing out, it went 403 on a 275. But then they just fought some engine problems, fought some valve train issues with it. And they worked their tails off. But it is now in my shop, and it's going to have a Hemi in it and a Hartz charger this year.
Wait, does he still own it or you bought it back?
He owns it.
Really? Interesting. So has he always been a diesel racer?
He's got another truck that's got a diesel in it also, and he's keeping it that way.
Gotcha.
But he wanted to be more competitive with the car. So
yeah, diesel's a whole different game.
It is. I mean, it's I don't know. It's not for me, but yeah. He wants to be more competitive, so that's he's going more of the traditional route now.
That was one of those cars that just stopped me in my tracks. The car itself, but also the fabrication on everything in there. I looked at that thing for a good 20 minutes. I couldn't stop taking pictures of it. Yeah. He was a really cool guy. I talked to him for a little bit.
Super nice, super nice. But
I was like, I just saw Larry here. Is this not his car anymore? And he's like, yeah, it's mine. I'm like, oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
Good guy.
Speaking of Larson race cars, how's that going?
Good.
Is this a part-time job for you now, or you full-time racer, part-time car builder?
Yeah, it's like I tell everybody. I said it's pretty bad when your hobby is your work, and it's rewarding. It's tiring. It's monotonous. It's all of just in different things. I mean, you go out and you win a $75,000 race. It's nothing's better. And then there's other times when you just work your ass off, and it's like. I could be sitting in a boat throwing a fishing line out here. So, so it's just different. I figure, I'm going to keep doing this as long as it's fun, as long as I can afford to. I get some help from some sponsors, and and hopefully do those guys good. But I'm just going to do it as long as it's still fun and I can afford to. And then I figure if I'm 85, I can throw a fishing rod.
Yeah, exactly. Do you find yourself having a hard time fighting burnout when you race all weekend, then have to come back and work on cars, or is it still enjoyable for you?
I mean, the older I get, the more it wears on you, I guess. I don't have the same enthusiasm and drive I did 20, 30 years ago. I mean, I still do, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, and then you have to have the right people around you. I mean, the people at work, the people at the racetrack, because that's the one thing that I used to do a lot more.
It's literally your life.
I used to do a lot more of it myself at home and everything else. And I mean, I'd even go to the racetrack the first couple of seasons for sure. I'd go do NPK, and I might pick up somebody at Tucson, a customer there, a customer in New York, or whatever. Wherever I went, I mean, hell, we won Maple Grove that one time. I got somebody off Facebook. The guy and his wife came in there and helped me, and we won Maple Grove. But it's got to a level now that you can't do that, and so you just got to have good help. And you look at all the teams, and most of the guys have got paid guys that are there day in, day out. Jeff and Teresa are here going with me this weekend, and it's just I couldn't do it without everybody.
Yeah,
I just couldn't do it.
Lucky man.
Yeah.
Is your bread and butter building race car chassis, or what's like the normal project?
Yeah, I mean that's the way I pay my bills, and everything else is doing that. I got a couple guys at the shop, and
that's awesome.
We still do. I mean, we got a shop full right now. I got one car from Hawaii in there. I got one from New York coming Monday.
Hawaii.
Yeah. So
like a serious drag car.
It's a drag and drive deal.
Oh, okay.
We had
on Hawaii and on the islands.
Yeah. On the island. Well,
I'm sure he's gonna do it here.
Yes, but he wants to take it back there too. I mean, he wants something that'll go, 850s, 860s, and that he can still drive, take it to the racetrack, drive home.
Tell him to get a hold of me. I need a reason to go to Hawaii.
Yeah.
On a business trip.
So, like I said, we've got plenty going.
What's the project you're most proud of building? Is it one of your cars? As a shopper personally,
there's, my new car, everybody's like, well, what's the nicest car you ever built? And it's like, well, you always want to think it's the last car you built because you always want to think you get better, right? So that's part of that. We've done so many crazy things over the years. I mean, that Corvette that we did for Glenn Shealy is nothing crazy, but it's a naturally aspirated C2 that's really nice. Tom McGilton's car.
No offense to any of your other cars. I haven't seen all of the cars you built, obviously, but that's one of my all-time favorite street cars right there. The story behind it, the fact that Tom is who he is just so amazing.
Doug Gray's Buick.
Yeah. So. Some really cool cars.
Yeah. So pretty cool stuff. They're all, like I said, we've just done so many weird things. We did that crazy Charger for John Ferroni over in Australia 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So we've just done a lot of different stuff.
Is there anything that you want to build that you're just waiting to do, or you just wait for the customer to tell you what they want?
Most of it's just customer stuff. I mean, I tell everybody, we'll build you whatever, just whatever a person wants. I mean, we're doing this, like this guy for Hawaii, we're doing a 69 Mustang. This thing.
Really?
This thing was sitting in storage in Montana for, what did he tell me, 18 years? I don't know. He brought it down, and I was like, this thing's probably not going to be anything great, He brings it down on a U-Haul trailer. I walk outside, I'm like, holy cow, this thing's nice. I mean, the paint's nice, the interior's nice. He wants it to look like a 69 Mustang inside and out. And Chris Holbrook's doing a Whipple-blown Coyote motor for it.
Ooh, awesome.
So.
Sweet. Street car, 8-second street car, stock body looking.
Yeah.
Good specialty.
Yeah. So, like I said, it doesn't matter. We just finished up a crazy, it's not done yet. It's in paint right now. Tom's daughter, Audria, wanted a push car for the racetrack, and we did a 48 Crosley pickup for her. And
that's one they bring to the races, right?
Well, they've got a yellow one
they have another one,
stock one, and then she bought another one that was not so nice. And this thing's got a little 4-cylinder turbocharged Cummins in it, so it's super crazy.
I love their family racing they do together. It's so cool. Great family. Well, what have we not talked about that you want to mention? Is there anything?
I don't know.
What's next for Larry Larson?
Eddyville tomorrow, tonight, whatever.
That's all you know.
I don't know. I think I'm going to go do. Jim Howe's got this new No Time Kings series that's a 4-race deal this year. So I think Speed Promotion deal is all but lights out. My personal opinion.
Yeah, we heard a lot of the rumors about that last weekend.
So we'll see. I mean, it was a good run, but Jim's put this deal together. It pays 10 for small tire, pays 40 for big tire. It has rules, which
big payout, big tire race.
Yeah, which I think is good. So I'm going to try and go support him next month for the first one, and then I'm just going to kind of pick and choose. I'm going to try to put the truck back together right now. The plan is to try and do drag week this year.
20th anniversary.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And then we're supposed to go to Havlic's deal in August at Cordova, which I'm looking forward to that because I think that's going to be a pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just to see all those old cars, the old original stuff. So don't really have any real agenda per se. Just going to kind of take it easy. I wouldn't mind starting to do a little bit more tuning work for some of the guys too. So just see, play it by ear.
Sweet. I'll be watching.
All right.
It's been a great time hanging out. Another bucket list, having Larry Larson on our podcast. And it was great reminiscing. But we'll keep an eye on you. Check out Larson Race Cars on Facebook. Anywhere else they should check you out?
I think we're on about everything now.
Yeah, on all social media.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. And thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button for the next Talkin Shift. We'll see you next time.